Hello readers, friends and those otherwise curious. Welcome to DanWhiteBooks, the book review channel where we discuss all things reading and try to add that little bit of insight to the worlds of literature for those who do read and those who don't. In today's video I'll be challenging a statement used by many who don't often read a book. That statement being, I don't have the time to read. I'll be explaining exactly where you can find that time. Now this is a sequel to a previous video answering why it is you should even read in the first place, so if you are skeptical, I'd recommend watching that one first, but for today's video, let's answer the question, where can I find the time to read? Finding time to read may at first seem impossible, but the reality is that finding time to read is like finding the time to do anything else in life. And I'm sure you and we all do that very well. It's not so much that we make more time to read, but instead that we manage the time we have more effectively. And that can be a nightmare, I will agree. But if Bill Gates can find time in his schedule to consume multiple books in a year, then it's not actually the time that's the issue. It's more what we're doing with our time. Most people who want to read will immediately think of how long it will take them, and that is fair. Someone who watches a film can look straight at the running time and get an approximation, but it's this ambiguity with books and the time it may take to read them that can be off-putting. A book on average is going to take a lot longer to finish than a Hollywood blockbuster. A book is a commitment and most people aren't going to finish it in one sitting. And even if you could, or even if you did, I personally would recommend against it. There are many minutes in the day, and you may find if you look back, even on the things you did today, that you did manage to make time for them despite not even planning to do so. You make a coffee, you watch television, you play some kick-ass games, you browse the internet. Aren't we all guilty of that? Watching YouTube videos just the same. It's not so much that the time for reading doesn't exist, it's more so that people put it off in favour of other activities, and again, that may be the way in which you perceive reading in the first place. But for now, let me give you an example regarding the use of time. I perfectly understand this example may be completely irrelevant to you, but I'm going to use it anyway. Pretend every evening at 5 PM you sit down and tune into an episode of your favourite game show. For the sake of argument, we'll say you sit down and watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You do this every day for many years. It's not an excessively long show, so you don't really feel the time you've put into it, and that's a key point. But slowly, that time is adding up each day. It's one thing to do this for something you enjoy, and something else entirely to do it with a program you're watching for the sheer sake of convenience, because nothing else is on. This time adds up. You may find at the end of the year that if you'd instead spent 30 minutes a day reading a book instead of watching television, that on average you could have finished 15 books that year. And that is just an average. You may read slower or faster than other people. The important thing is, you wouldn't even notice the time passing. You wouldn't even notice the books except for the enjoyment. Sitting down to watch a show on TV, if you're like me on a bad day, unless you've got a streaming service and are choosing your own content, you find yourself sitting in front of the telly just watching something you don't even enjoy and in no way something you would ever search for, and 30 minutes go by. Heck, sometimes hours go by. So it's not the time that isn't there, it's instead the time is being used elsewhere. See for yourself if you can afford to allocate 30 minutes per day to reading, and I must stress, if you're reading a book and those 30 minutes feel like watching paint dry, stop, take a break and come back to the book. It's set that the next 30 minutes will be dedicated to reading, and when the voice in your head starts playing, oh hell, perhaps yelling, this is boring, accept it, acknowledge it, and like a car on a motorway, just let it pass by. If you still feel the book you're reading is tedious and stressful and you're really struggling, then find something else to read. If it's a work of non-fiction, come back to it. It's not all expected that we're going to understand every book we read on first sitting. Some are complicated, they're bloody complicated, so don't feel compelled to finish books you are not enjoying just because you've started them, because if you do that, you'll never ever enjoy reading. Start with even 10 minutes a day. If you feel like 30 minutes is too much, start with 15. My point is that when we do short things for long periods, we don't feel our time vanishing. Habits begin to form, and before long, you swap time lost with time gained. Things just start happening. You can look back and feel the result of your weeks instead of knowing that they're dwindling away. This is the same for reading as much as anything else, so let your mind relax and engross yourself with a book. The benefits of silence are something to behold. You'll find even the mightiest works seem manageable as the days pass, and then suddenly you've finished. Even if you read 25 pages a day, after 4 days you've already cleared 100. You start thinking like this, and books don't seem all that time consuming at all. You start looking at them in not as an 800-page monster, but instead just see them for what they are, just books, words on a page, with a lot of enjoyment to be had in there, and so much to be learned. You could use your time before bed, or you could use your time in the morning, but my advice would be to name a time and to stick to it. Don't leave it to chance. Those 30 minutes could very much change you. I always state that people shouldn't be afraid of non-fiction books, fiction books, because within those pages, real lessons are learned. Take 30 minutes to find something and stick with it. Even if it's just one book, see how you feel. You may not enjoy it, but at least you tried. The greatest authors in fiction and non-fiction can engage your mind in a topic you may have shunned or never thought to care about. Physics can become less about equations and more about wonder. Love can go from a thing of fear to a remembrance of beauty, and even the darkness in life can be given a silver lining. My friends, thank you for watching, and remember, if you've never done this before, this is going to be difficult. We all fall. You'll mess up. You may miss a day. But to quote a film, it's not about how we fall. It's about how we get back up again. My friends, thank you very much for watching.